Your parent hour. That window between the kids going down and your own bedtime. An hour, maybe a bit more if you're lucky. When the house finally goes quiet and the controller is in your hand. Many nights, half of that is gone before you've even decided what to play. You've been there. You open the game library, scroll through it, talk yourself out of a few picks, and go to bed without starting any of them. These 18 games are split across 3 situations based on how the night feels when you sit down to play. Because what works at 9:30 when you're still yourself is different from what you can handle at 10:30 when you're running low on energy. If honest picks for busy parent gamers with that 1 hour an evening to play is what you're after, that's this channel. No rage, no sweat. Subscribe if that sounds like you. Now, let's find you something to play tonight. Three situations. Pick the one that fits your evening. When your brain is done for the night. First up, for those nights when your brain checked out while you were still doing the kids' bedtime routine. You don't need a challenge, you don't want to spend time learning new mechanics. You just want to sit in the quiet and have something good happen on screen for an hour with nothing that pushes you too hard or punishes you for stopping. Dorfromantik. Dorfromantik is a tile placement puzzle. You draw a hexagonal tile and fit it onto the board, matching forests to forests, rivers to rivers, little towns beginning to take shape. No timer, no pressure. What makes it work at the parent hour is how forgiving each decision feels. Small and complete in itself. 20 minutes in, you've put together something that looks like a place, and it didn't cost you anything to get there. As you complete quests, you earn more tiles that carry into future sessions, so there's always something to work toward without it ever feeling like a grind. 4 modes let you mix up what each session looks like. It doesn't punish you for stopping, and it doesn't demand a warm-up when you come back. Tiny Glade. Tiny Glade is a building sandbox with no objectives. You're placing walls, towers, paths, small windows. Something that looks like it belongs in a fairy tale. Nothing collapses, nothing attacks. It doesn't demand anything from you. 5 minutes here feels as complete as an hour. You put in exactly what you have and leave with something that looks like it matters. That's rare. Flower. I've played Flower through multiple times over the 15+ years it's been out, and it is the clearest example of what this category is for. You control the wind, you gather petals, and the world wakes up around you as you drift through it. No fail state, no score. Nothing waiting to punish you for putting the controller down. It came out in 2009 and it still earns its place. Maybe more now because you understand what it's actually for. There's a specific kind of exhaustion it was built for, and it knows exactly what to do with it. The motion controls on PlayStation make it something different from most things in your library. It's also one of the few games on this list that works just as well with the kids in the room if they want to have a go. Spiritfarer. Spiritfarer is about running a ferry for souls on their way out. You cook meals, build shelters, have conversations with characters who each carry their own story and their own moment of letting go. It saves constantly. No death, no punishment for stopping mid-session. It gets heavy at points and it earns that, but it never asks more from a session than you have to give. Good one for a night when the parent hour is quiet, but you still want to have fun or feel something. The version on all platforms is the Farewell Edition, which includes 3 content updates that came out after launch. What remains of Edith Finch?
The first thing I should tell you is that I lived here until I was 11.
2 hours. That's the game start to finish. It won BAFTA Game of the Year in 2018 and beat Breath of the Wild to do it. You explore a family home and find out how each member of the Finch family died. No fail states. Completable in a single sitting after the kids are down. I'll keep this brief because there's a full review on the channel, link in the description if you want the full picture. The short version, it hits differently when you're a parent. When you've still got some energy left. Second up, for those nights when the kids' bedtime routine went fine and you still got some energy left. You're tired, but not that tired. You don't need something where you can completely turn your brain off. You want a game that responds to the energy you've got, where a 30 or 40 minute session feels like it counted for something. A game that actually respects that time. Vampire Survivors. You move a character around an arena, weapons fire automatically, and waves of enemies keep building until the run ends at the 30-minute mark, whether you want it to or not. That's what earns its place here. You don't have to decide when to stop. The game stops you. 1 or 2 runs done for the day, controller down. The loop works at most energy levels, and the automatic timer handles something most games leave entirely up to you. When to stop. Couch and online co-op are also in there now if you want to play it with someone. Fair warning though, even with the auto and timer, this one has a real one more run pull. The run ends cleanly, but the next one starts with a single button. SAROS.
But after every death, I always come back stronger.
SAROS is from Housemarque, the studio behind Returnal. If Returnal was on your list at some point and then quietly came off because the sessions felt like they were working against you, SAROS is worth knowing about. Same DNA, different approach. Runs are around 30 minutes. You can close mid-run and pick up exactly where you left off. And the game saves after every room you clear, so stopping between fights costs you nothing. Close out during a boss fight and you lose that run's progress. Outside of that, this is a real step up from Returnal for parent gaming. And getting through a boss here is the kind of satisfying that makes you want to come back the next night. Slay the Spire. Slay the Spire is a card game about climbing a tower. You build a deck as you go, fight turn-based encounters, and runs take around 30 to 40 minutes. What earns it a place here is the mid-run save. You can close it in the middle of a boss fight, come back the next night, and you're back in the exact fight with the same cards in your hand. In this type of game, that's not common. One warning, this loop is addictive. Slay the Spire has a real one more run problem. Set a timer before you sit down with it. Quick note on the sequel. Slay the Spire 2 is in early access and worth knowing about, but the original is the pick here. It's the more complete experience and better suited to the parent hour. Hollow Knight Silksong. Hollow Knight Silksong came out last September, 8 years after the original. One of the most anticipated releases in years. When it arrived, it launched at $20, which surprised everyone. You play as Hornet, the mysterious princess protector of Hollow Nest's ruins, climbing through a new kingdom called Farlu. The combat is faster and more demanding than Hollow Knight, with over 40 bosses across the game. 93% positive on Steam, from 140,000 reviews. A heads up on the save system. You can pause anytime, but the game only saves when you rest at a bench, or when you quit the menu, which puts you back at your last bench. Benches are spread through Farloom, but not always close. If you have to bail mid-boss, you'll be back at that bench, not in the fight, and the progress between is lost. Silksong asks more from you than most other games in this category, but it gives back just as much. Blueprints. Blueprints is a 2025 puzzle game where you draft rooms into a manor house, trying to reach a basement that keeps shifting further away. Each attempt runs 15 to 20 minutes before you're back at the start with more information than you had before. The mansion has a story buried in it, and it surfaces in fragments. A note here, a strange room there. The mystery of what you're actually doing here unfolds slowly across many nights. You carry those sessions with you. The runs are short enough that you'll want to go again. Keep an eye on the clock. And it's worth having a notepad nearby when you play this. You'll use it. One of the more original games of 2025. FTL, Faster Than Light. FTL is a spaceship simulation roguelike that's over 10 years old and it still makes the list. You're captaining a spaceship trying to outrun a rebel fleet across 8 sectors. You make calls about crew, weapons, upgrades, and when to take a risk as you navigate a randomly generated galaxy. When a run starts clicking, you feel it. Every decision compounds. The crew you've kept alive through 3 sectors can be gone in seconds if you misjudge one fight. Runs take around 45 minutes when they go well. It saves mid-run, which wasn't standard when it came out, and it still isn't common now. When you want something more substantial. Last category, for when you're ready to commit to something. These aren't games you finish in a night or even a week, but they are worth putting your parent hour into consistently, because they give back more the longer you stay with them. A proper story, a world worth spending time in, or something to play with someone else when the timing lines up. Marvel's Spider-Man series.
Peter, it's time to get up.
Spider-Man opens this category because the series figured out something most open-world games at this length haven't managed. How to respect the time you've got. Pause anywhere, anytime. Mid-swing, mid-fight, it doesn't matter. Strong auto-save throughout. And even on a tired Tuesday evening, when the parent hour is already half gone, swinging through Manhattan just feels good. There are 3 Spider-Man games now. The original with the remaster, Miles Morales, and Spider-Man 2. Miles Morales is 8 to 10 hours if you want something you can finish in a shorter time. Start with whichever one you haven't played. If that's all 3, start at the beginning. Your backlog just got a plan. Robocop, Rogue City.
Dead or alive, you are coming with me.
Robocop Rogue City knows exactly what it is. You play as Robocop in the 1980s old Detroit. First person, deliberate and faithful to the film in the ways that matter. You walk like Robocop, you sound like Robocop. About 3 minutes in, you stop a crime the way Robocop stops a crime. If you grew up with those films, and many of us in this age bracket did, this is a specific kind of nostalgia the game earns rather than just borrowing. 12 hours chapter-based, with a proper story running through it rather than missions strung together. The combat is methodical rather than twitchy. You're not fast, but you're Robocop. It doesn't matter. A chapter a night and you're through it inside a couple of weeks.
Dead or alive, you are coming with me.
Clair Obscur, Expedition 33. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is the turn-based RPG of 2025. Being called the Paintress paints a number each year, and everyone of that age dies. Expedition 33 is the soldiers sent to stop her. The story, the characters, the world design, all from a studio making their first game. Around 29 hours for the main story, which puts it right in the range where finishing it is a realistic goal for a busy parent. I had this on the Mother's Day list. It's here again because I really think people should play it. Because it's turn-based, you're never stuck mid-fight when something else needs your attention. And the comparisons people are making to Final Fantasy at its best are not overblown. 29 hours, you can actually finish this one.
Right.
Valiant Hearts, The Great War.
Lives shattered and torn from their loved ones.
Valiant Hearts came out in 2014. I finished it over a decade ago and I still think about it occasionally. It really does stay with you in a way most games don't. It's a puzzle adventure game about a family torn apart, following 4 characters across World War I. Each episode ends naturally and opens with a recap, so putting it down for a week and coming back isn't a problem. 8 to 10 hours total. The art, the story, the way it handles that war without being sanitized or gratuitous. There's nothing quite like it. It's been sitting there for over 10 years, and most people still haven't touched it. Remnant 2. If there's someone you want to play with, a friend or a partner who also has a power free, Remnant 2 is worth knowing about. It's a third-person action RPG with procedurally generated worlds and boss fights across a 15 to 20 hour campaign. Survivor difficulty keeps it manageable on nights when you're not at your sharpest. World stones are the session markers. Each one is a checkpoint where you stop without losing anything. An area and a boss fits inside most evenings. The co-op is drop-in. Your friend is already in a run, you join, you both stop at the next world stone. No lobby to set up. Crossplay between PC and PlayStation 5. Disco Elysium, The Final Cut. Disco Elysium is a detective RPG built around dialogue and skill checks rather than combat. You play a cop who has lost his memory, his badge, and most of his self-respect, trying to solve a murder with your partner in a city that slowly reveals itself around them. No combat at all. Save anywhere. Around 25 hours, and it gets stronger the further in you go. The writing is good. If you tried it before and it didn't catch in the first hour, give it a couple more sessions. For me, that was the point where it grabbed hold and I finished it without really meaning to stop. Outer Wilds. I want to be careful about what I say here, because this one is worth going in knowing as little as possible. You're an astronaut in a small solar system. There's a 22-minute time loop. You die, everything resets, but you keep everything you've learned. That loop is also your natural session structure. You sit down, explore something new. The loop ends and you've moved forward even if it doesn't feel like it yet. Every death teaches you something. Progress isn't measured in items or levels. It's measured in understanding. No demanding mechanics, no punishing difficulty. Just a mystery that gets more interesting the deeper you go. The kind of game you find yourself still thinking about the next morning. That's all 18 games. If I'm picking something for tonight, Flower if the brain's already gone. Slay the Spire if there's still some energy left. Outer Wilds if I'm ready to commit to something properly. What do you play on your parent hour? Drop it in the comments. I'm always curious about what wins out when you finally sit down to play. A like helps a channel this size more than you'd think. And the subscribe button is right there. If content for busy adults, mom and dad gamers is what you're after. Ko-fi link is in the description if you want to support the channel directly. Everything goes back into making more of this. If you've got a parent hour tonight, I hope one of these earns it. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.